Yep.
All right, and go. Hey, good evening, friends. Once again, I'm Joe Crum. Thank you all for being here again. Today, I want to talk to you about suicide prevention and kind of life after leaving the military for a lot of combat veterans. So, just to kind of tell you a little bit about my background, I was in the Marines for 5 years. During that time, I had multiple friends commit suicide because of their past trauma, whether it was combat or whatever their demons were. But specifically today, we're going to be talking about PTSD and the trauma that it can cause that leads to suicide among vets, as well as some organizations that are working towards dropping that number. So a lot of this has been circling social media and Facebook, and a lot of people are saying 22 veterans a day. That stat is actually pretty accurate per a study that was done by the Veteran Affairs from 2015 until the end of 2018. So it is about 22 veterans a day that are taking their own lives. And to be honest, it's a pretty astounding number considering the amount of people that have served since the beginning of the Iraq War in 2003 to date, where we're still in many combat zones around the world. So what I'll be talking about today is my own experience with suicide, as well as Mission 22, which is a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to providing assistance to veterans that are suffering from PTSD, TBI, and other mental illnesses, as well as raising self-awareness about how to combat suicide among veterans. All right, so a quick story from me. The first instance I had from suicide was from my first deployment in Afghanistan, where our cook took his own life in the middle of our deployment, and it was pretty tragic because, one, he didn't really have an outlet while he was out there. The signs were there to where it could have been prevented, but it wasn't. So he took his own life in 2012 in Afghanistan. And then most recently, another Marine that I served with in the same deployment, as well as my follow-on combat tour, took his life about a month and a half ago. So this isn't something that is just narrowed down to me or other people. Most people that have served know somebody that has taken their own life, as well as the families of those members, as well as pretty much anyone you went to high school with. If you look back, you're likely to find somebody that's taken their own life after serving in the military. So because of that increasing number of veterans that are taking their own life, I've chosen to talk about Mission 22. And I talked about them a little bit, but Mission 22 was founded in 2013, and their sole mission is to provide that assistance to veterans in order to get them the mental health assistance that they need, provide people to talk to veterans or really anybody that is considering committing suicide, and then provide the medical treatment or find somebody that can provide those individuals medical treatment in order to prevent it. So why I wanted to talk about them is because while there are other organizations like the Wounded Warrior Project, among others, the Special Operating Force Foundation, that really focus on veterans as a whole, this organization is solely looking at the suicide aspect of it. So what that means is that 85% of all donations that are made to Mission 22 go directly towards those programs and projects and public outreach in order to kind of to stem that flow. And their goal is to take it from 22 veterans a day down to 0. I find this admirable, and that's why I decided to talk about them today. So another thing that I think sets this program apart is that it is that 85% of the donations goes to actually helping the veterans. A lot of nonprofit organizations have really big employee and really high overheads, so they're taking more of that donation to pay their employees as well as their CEO and kind of that board of directors, as opposed to having a low overhead and being able to donate all of that, or the majority of that money, to the veterans themselves. And then finally, per GuideStar, which is an online tracking website for nonprofit organizations, this is a platinum organization, which means that it is fairly transparent with what they're doing with the funds and how they're actually helping veterans today, as opposed to some other organizations that might be a little less transparent and don't spend as much of the donations on the actual veterans. So in conclusion, I chose Mission 22 solely because I think that it is a good organization and I believe in what they're doing. So as part of the speech, I would like everybody here, a lot of people would ask for donations. I'm not asking for anybody to donate anything, but please reach out to veterans that you know or you haven't talked to recently and just see how they're doing. A lot of times it's simply that, veterans are feeling lonely, they don't know how to cope with what they're dealing with, and somebody that they haven't talked to from high school or earlier in their careers, reaching out and seeing how they're doing can make a difference. And that's all I got, so thank you all for coming tonight, and if you have any questions, it's a good time to ask.